Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to the Media Row podcast. I'm Justin Miller. Happy to have you guys along for the ride. We're sponsored by, of course, Kelly's Little Nipper and Stevens Automotive and Sales. A really fun show planned today. I know Monday we didn't have any interviews. Today we're going back to the interviews. Having on the show Jake Brend. You may know him from Channel 5. You may know him from social media hits, his Brend brand. Or you may have heard him on Iowa Everywhere as well. Man of many hats and someone who I've been really fortunate to get to know as we've really, connected over the past few years, going on the same trips, covering Iowa State, Drake, March Madness, all that good stuff, bowl games. So really happy to have him on the show. He's around my same age, so it's really cool to get to learn from him still because I still look up to him as a mentor and someone as a close friend. So it's going to be a really great interview. Happy to have you guys along for the ride today. Before we get to that interview, first off, feeling better. Fever broke. No more gross stomach bug where want to hear something really gross because I again learned from the great Travis Justice, who had no fear in sharing stuff like this, so I don't either. I lost 3 pounds. I stepped on the scale yesterday and lost 3 pounds, and it wasn't from vomiting. Yeah, that was the struggle your boy was in. It was awful. I haven't had a stomach bug like that in a long, long time. It was fine. I was texting people, and I think I was telling everyone. It was so gross. And my dad was like, you need to come over to my house. I could lose some weight. And I'm like, I don't think that's healthy. But so there's a little health update because I know that's why you tune into this show. But a perfect way to kick off a Wednesday. Just having some fun. And it's going to be a great time with Jake Brend. Before we get to that interview, give a shout out to Kelly's Little Nipper, the big 3 keys why you should go check out Kelly's Little Nipper at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Great food, great drinks, and even better community. On Fridays, you can hear live music. It's a little rainy this week, but don't worry, that summer weather is going to come back, and you can enjoy that patio that myself, Joe Woodley, Carson, and Ross enjoyed on Saturday after the golf tournament. It was a blast. Great people over there at Kelly's Little Nipper. Always fun and innovative, always creative too. It's going to be a great time no matter when you show up. So go to 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines. Get yourself some great deals when you use the keyword Hendo and get yourself some cheese balls courtesy of Media Row. When you go there, make sure to let them know they heard it here on the Media Row podcast. So, Jake, first off, thank you again so much for doing this for me. I know it's going to be a busy week for you, as always, with being in TV, but I appreciate you finding time to do this.
No, thanks for having me, and this will be a good warm up. I woke up a little early. I'll have to wake up a little early for state track later this week, so I'm just getting my body in that mindset.
Well, you've probably had early mornings but late nights watching your Denver Nuggets. How are the feelings after that Game 7?
It sounds weird because the team won a championship 2 years ago and went out in the second round for the second straight year, but I couldn't help but feel proud with everything that the kind of the core four, the starting five, had to go through with firing a GM and the coach with a week left in the season. The writing was on the wall that the team was not going to accomplish anything not because of those guys, not because of Nikola Jokic or Aaron Gordon or Christian Brown, but because of kind of the incompetence by former general manager Calvin Booth and his inability to bring in veterans to fill up minutes on the bench. And it became clear that they probably weren't going to contend for a championship despite having the best player in the world. And I thought they'll probably lose to the Clippers in 6 games because I thought the Clippers were really good, and I still think they're really good, and I think I was proven right. And I definitely didn't expect them to beat the Thunder. And the fact that they were able to bring it to 7 games, and if they had literally just one or two more guys off the bench that don't have to be great, like a Justin Holiday or something like that,
Hmm.
or a Jeff Green, I think they beat the Thunder if they have one or two more guys like that off the bench. And that's where it's a little sad, but at the same time, I think the Thunder are the best team in the world, and they're that close to bringing them down. I didn't have too much faith in Game 7 when Aaron Gordon was diagnosed with a grade 2 hamstring,
Yeah.
but the fact that they're able to get it to that point, it shows me that the core of Jokic and Gordon, we'll see what happens with everybody else, but I know that those two, they can still win a championship together. So it's an important offseason to retool and gosh, just please, please, please take advantage of the Jokic era.
What do you think led to the firing of the head coach? I know a lot of people weren't too surprised with the GM, just like you said, people were kind of fed up with how he was running the team, but the coach, that one seemed really shocking to the sports world.
So there was two things that happened there. A lot of it was because of the dysfunction with Booth, and essentially Calvin Booth let KCP walk. Calvin Booth let Jeff Green walk. Calvin Booth didn't bring back Justin Holiday when he easily could have because he wanted his draft picks to play. And Mike Malone simply didn't think that his second round draft picks were ready, which is a fair thing to assume because
Yeah.
second round picks in the NBA probably hit at a 25 to 30% rate. And I think the problem is Christian Brown has been awesome. And that sounds weird for me to say that that's a problem, but that was Calvin Booth's first draft pick on the job. And when Christian Brown at, I think, pick 23 or 24, when he's a hit, all of a sudden Booth thinks, oh, yeah, I've got this figured out. And at that point, he just tried to pretty much make the entire bench and back end of the rotation all first and second round picks. And Malone just didn't agree with that. And there was reports that him and Booth hadn't talked since Christmas. Like those guys did not like each other. So I think it was simply a culture thing of if you guys aren't going to get along, neither of you can be here. And the other part of it was the locker room had just quit. I watch every game. The team was significantly underperforming. They weren't playing defense. And you could tell that the locker room, after 10 years, that's a long time to hear the same voice. You could just tell that they weren't getting his message anymore. And the move was, it sounded like the move was going to be made this summer no matter what. And they made the move before the playoffs. Is like, you know what, if we can use this to rally the troops, and honestly, it worked because they were maybe two made threes in game five away from winning the series. I think that's where that decision came from.
Who do you think they grab then? Is it just going to be one of those, whoever was the interim head coach throughout the
Yeah,
playoffs, you think? Okay.
I think Adelman did enough to
Okay.
to earn himself the job, unless there is some other surprising name that comes on the market, or maybe another coach that decides he wants to leave. They're like a this isn't going to happen, but like an Eric Spoelstra or something like that.
Yeah.
If he just decides that, you know what, maybe I've run my course in Miami, unless it's a name like that, I would anticipate it being Adelman over a retread, like a Frank Vogel, which I really hope they don't go in that direction of a coach who has been in four jobs the last 10 years. I'd
Yeah.
rather give the young upcoming assistant who I think showed a lot of good things in the playoff. I'd rather give him the job.
What do you think in terms of the NBA playoffs as a whole? What has been the like biggest surprise or best story to this point?
I think if you just look at the conference finals, it I wish my team was there, but it's great to see four teams with new blood. And we saw glimpses of it with the Timberwolves last year. I think they've grown up again, and Anthony Edwards has taken the next step up. It's been cool to see Julius Randle overcome tons of playoff demons when he has really never showed up in the playoffs, and he's been a great second option for Minnesota. OKC, I I do not like playing OKC, but I respect them. And it's cool to say that my team is kind of the reason that they grew up. And I I think Oklahoma City's going to win the finals now. If they would have played, let's say, Golden State in round two and swept them or beat them in five, I don't know if OKC would win at all because they wouldn't have earned those battle scars yet.
Wouldn't
They
have
had to
been tested.
they had to go through the mud and they had to take down Jokic and they gave everything they had. And they had moments where like they choked game one, they choked game three, they got destroyed in an elimination game in game six. And I think all of those moments will be why they eventually win the championship. And on the other side, who would have thought Boston and Cleveland both go down in the second round? And I think what that shows me is it's just a new era of parity. I don't want to get too in the weeds with the new CBA,
Mhm.
but essentially the new collective bargaining agreement has made it so that the KD Warriors can never happen again. Essentially, when a team wins a championship, unless that you have a bunch of guys on their rookie contracts, they will get worse the next year. It's just how it works. The new salary cap is not meant for more than two max players, and Boston has four. Denver has three or four. Cleveland, they're about to have three or four. So it makes it really hard to repeat when you can't necessarily add a bunch of pieces after you win the championship. And I think that's what we're seeing with the parity, where we've got whoever wins the championship, it's either going to be OKC, Indiana, or Minnesota's first, or it's going to be New York's first in 50 years. And I think that's really good for the league to have new blood and have new stars going for it in the championship.
One of the new stars, of course, being a jersey you have hung up in the background,
Yep.
Halliburton. I mean, talk about with you personally being a Cyclone fan, you working in Iowa TV media, like kind of a perfect storm to be able to cover this guy. And also the whole most overrated player stuff that came out before the playoffs. His story has been unbelievable.
It's so cool because I know it's been shared before, but when he was at Iowa State, he broke his wrist his sophomore season. And that team, it wasn't a great roster around him. They probably weren't going to make the tournament even with Halliburton. But when he broke his wrist in the middle of Big 12 play, that was the dagger. And his parents still came to every game, home and away. And you can tell that what he's brought from his parents that has completely translated into all aspects of his life. And that's where I think the overrated conversation is so stupid.
It's so
Sure,
dumb.
sure, if you want to look at a box score and say, "Oh my gosh, he only had 12 points." Well, you didn't watch the game because the his infectious personality, not only is it setting up other players pretty much on every single possession, it's also reflecting off the other players. And like you'll see Miles Turner make the extra pass or literally any other player. And that's what makes the Pacers maybe the most prolific offense in the entire league. It's not because Halliburton is going out there and taking 25 shots when if he wanted to, he'd probably have every right to do that because he's their all-star, he's the best player on the team, but the way that he is able to get everybody involved, push the pace every single possession. And I swear, if you watch a Pacers game, if Halliburton is on the floor, I swear the Pacers get a good look 90% of the time. Does it go in every time? No, because it's basketball. But what he's able to do from the point guard position and then be clutch too. Like that, you don't see him pass in crunch time that often. And that's a good quality to have because, hey, man, you're their all star. Go take over. He's hit a game winner on Giannis Antetokounmpo this year, and he had that spectacular game winner in game two over Cleveland. He has proven time and time again, really his entire career, that he is Mr. Clutch, and he'll be a big reason if the Pacers are able to get past the Knicks.
Yeah, what do you feel about that Eastern Conference Finals? One, I love it just because of the history of the two teams, ranging from Reggie Miller headbutting or John Starks headbutting Reggie
Yep.
Miller to now. And just how do you feel about the Pacers? My biggest concern is their defense because they can put up 120 points, but they can give up 121 on any given night.
Yeah, I like their chances because the Knicks are not deep, and that's honestly by design because Tom Thibodeau is their head coach, and the
Yeah.
Pacers are deep. Like they go 9, 10 deep, and they have guys who were in the playoff rotation last year that don't even play anymore. So the fact that they're able to go that deep and they all they do is run. They run the entire game. I think they can wear the Knicks down a little bit. And I like the spot that they're in starting on the road because I think they thrive in those types of environments. There's going to be a lot of trash talk. I think if they can steal one of the first two games and take back home court advantage, I do like the Pacers in this series, but it'll be a great test back and forth between two of the five most clutch players in the league and Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson because I have a feeling that a majority of these games are going to come down to the last minute, and it's which guard can make more shots, which guard can put their team on top at the end.
And then for the Western Conference Finals, I know you said you really like the Thunder. They're kind of your pick to win the whole thing. But do you think it's a sweep for the Thunder, or do you think this one has the potential to go game seven?
I don't. I think this is a longer series, but I think the Thunder comfortably win it. I
Okay.
just think the roster difference is enough. And the T-Wolves have scars because I mean they beat Denver in a 7-game series last year too. They they took the Mavs, or I guess they took a loss from the Mavs last year. My worry is thus far the T-Wolves have not really been tested. I I got into some arguments on Twitter with some people when I said after game one of the first round that I can't believe anybody was tricked into thinking that the Lakers were championship contenders with 40-year-old LeBron as their second option. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. I appreciate LeBron. I like LeBron. But I just never thought with LeBron as your second option at this age that it was realistic for them to compete. And I was proven to be right because the T Wolves just smoked them. And then they got to play a Steph Curryless Warriors. So that's my worry is yes, they might be fresh, but they haven't had the grueling battle scars yet with this team. And I think what the Thunder learned from that last series, I think that'll carry over. But again, they got Ant Edwards, and Ant is capable of going nuclear at any point. And I think the T Wolves are a good matchup for the Thunder in the sense that like it's hard. Lou Dort and Cason Wallace are really good defenders, but it is hard to shut down Ant. And if Ant is able to get to his spots and is able to get downhill and get the ball to Julius Randle on the low block, there is a world where the T Wolves are just a little more athletic and are able to maybe out crunch time OKC.
I love watching the Timberwolves. I'm not a Timberwolves fan. I'm a Spurs guy. I grew up watching, Tim Duncan, so big fundamental over here, but that offense is so fun to watch. I think honestly, with not having a team in the conference finals, this is how I'd want it to set up. Like a young Thunder team, still a young Timberwolves team that was a year ago right there with the chance to go to the finals, and then the history of the Pacers and Knicks. I think it sets up perfectly. But I do want to get to your career because what I've been doing in the summer, kind of in the slower months, is having people that have been mentors, friends, people I've looked up to come on the show and talk about their career. You're definitely one of those people. And what's funny is the way you got started, it was a little different because your name was already in the news when you were in college with the Brend brand,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah. So my accomplishments, unfortunately, I'll probably never outlive what I did as an intern. So I have so much, I have so much to live up to. But all seriousness, I was able to just have the best opportunity at at WHO 13 as an intern with Keith Murphy, John Sears, Mark Freund. Rod Peterson, the news director there. It was the best possible thing, and I was not only able to do one internship, but I was able to do two. And aside from like the skills that I learned every single day, and the fact that I was like by my second internship, it's oh well, John's off today, so if you just want to go cover state soccer by yourself, go do it. And that to be able to have that trust as an intern, as a college kid, that stuff you can't put a price tag on that. And then there was all the exposure from being the world's most famous D3 tennis player, which I promise it is not that impressive of a title. But to be able to have all of that and to have the video of girls state golf that I swear still gets comments to this day. It's been 3 years and people are still commenting on the ridiculous green at the state tournament. To have my name on all that stuff, it definitely went a long way.
So yeah, go back to the girls' state soccer for maybe people who haven't seen the video. What took place there?
So I don't know how anyone hasn't seen the video. No, I'm kidding. So I was at Girls State Golf. This would have been 3 years ago. We were at a course up in Adel, and I was just hanging out on a green by the clubhouse. I think it was hole eight. I think it was hole 18, and I just noticed that man, these girls are taking a lot of putts on this hole, and I started to pay closer and closer attention. Essentially, the the pin was set up on the side of a slope. And no matter if you were short of the hole or if you were long, you didn't really have a shot to make this putt. And the average score on this hole, I think, was a quadruple bogey
Oh, holy cow.
because it was just like if you were 5 feet above the hole, if you tapped it as soft as you could, it was still going to blow by the hole. So you essentially just had to make it straight through the middle. And it was hard to watch. I felt bad. I had coaches coming up to me complaining about it. And the funny part is I almost didn't even post the video.
Hmm.
So I was back at the station and Mark Freund was there and I got all my coverage in from the actual tournament itself and so from Gilbert wins the tournament and here's an interview with her. And then I was telling him like, yeah, this 18th green was just crazy. Like I just looked, the average score I think was a 7 or an 8. And I was showing him it, and he's like, "Ah, you could go ahead and post that. You worked like a 10-hour day out there. Maybe you'll get some clicks from it." Never did I envision that. I remember I was going to a buddy's like rooftop at his apartment complex, and I went and picked up a pizza. So a 10-minute drive from the station to go pick up the pizza, and I checked my phone, and I already had like 100 comments within 10 minutes and I was not expected for what came next of just that video was everywhere for weeks.
And it's funny, I bring up the Brend brand because so I was producing Murph and Andy, and it was my first time ever meeting Murph, Andy, doing that show, and they do trending, or they did trending. And yours was my first trending I ever did on KXNO
That's
was the
hilarious.
Brend brand. And it was fun because I was thinking about that last night of like I went back and I found it and I was like, yep, that was the very first one. I sound so nervous behind the mic. I'm like shaking trying to pronounce Brend brand.
Must have been a
But
slow news day if that was the number one trending topic.
no, I think it should have been number one trending. Come on. But just what were those first jobs like at that time of being an intern? Because it's been really interesting talking to people in the writing side, photography side, TV side, is you get some interesting first gigs.
Yeah, so it's a funny story that I never really was dead set on TV. When I was at Simpson, I tried to do a little bit of everything. I think radio was always my first passion, whether that was going to be sports talk or play by play. That's what I wanted to do. And my sophomore year at Simpson, I had a friend named Noah Sacco. He is now in Wichita. He spent 3 years in Sioux City as a sports reporter, and he interned with Sound Off and WHO the summer before that. And I kind of used his connections to get Murph's email and Andy's email and AD's email because I was going to try and get an internship with iHeart, and I was going to try and do an internship with the Murph and Andy show or with KXNO in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And I sent an email and all that, and Murph responds and says, "Hey, I'm sorry, this would be awesome, but unfortunately, iHeart's not allowing interns right now during COVID because it was still COVID." But then he said, "But we've got an opening at the TV station. You should apply for that." And what he actually meant, I didn't really need to apply. He's like, "Hey, just email somebody at the station and you got an internship." And that
Oh,
was
sick.
so my plan was never to do TV, and I hadn't really had much experience with video. I was I was kind of raw when it came to that, but then I was able to show up and do a ton. But the funniest part is my first day, literally my first day on the job, I show up and Murph's like, "All right, get ready. You're gonna be on camera. You're doing a skit." And it was the transfer portal where on my first day I showed up and I let Keith and John know that I'm heading down to the weather department. So it it was just it was a very good intro to the TV world and to kind of the sound off world where my first day I was doing skits and just a part of the team, and I was able to do so much. I actually got a Snapchat memory the other day of where I was back in like some empty room just with a camera and a mic practicing stand-ups, and I had this, gosh, it was like a 30-second stand-up. It was terrible, but I was talking, I got through like 28 seconds and then I biffed the last word. And all I do is like, uh and just to like watch that back and look at how far I've come and like how bad I used to be, like how robotic everything used to
Yeah.
feel like and how robotic it was. And to see just how far those skills have come, and a lot of that is reps, is just getting in front of a mirror, getting in front of a camera and doing it, but it also is feedback. And I was able to get so much feedback from some of the greatest sportscasters in our state's history. And Keith was like, "Hey man, figure out your hands. Like you can't just have your hands like that the entire time." And he said it a lot nicer than that because it's Keith Murphy,
You
but
were Ricky Bobby.
I was. No,
You
that's
didn't
what
know
he
what to do
that's
with
what
your
he always tell
hands.
me. He's like, "Ricky Bobby, you got to figure it out." Stuff like that. So to be able to have those experiences and have those failures, that has brought me such a long way.
And like you said, having those mentors of Mark, John, Andy, Murph, just was there a piece of advice? Is there a little bit of, you guys take the job very seriously, but you don't take yourselves too seriously. Does that take some stress off of it as well?
Yeah, so I'd say the number one piece of advice that I got, it was after one of those anchor run throughs where after the 6 o'clock news, I go in and I read the exact same sports cast that Murph or John or Mark just did, and I would just go through it, record it, watch it back, and here I am. Yep, the Iowa Cubs are home today against St. Paul, blah blah blah, or Omaha. I still remember this story. Omaha Blue is moving home after 2 years at AAU. He's coming back to Waukee. And this is how I was talking. No enthusiasm, no smile on my face. And Keith just pulled me aside after we watched it, and he said, "This world sucks." Like, and nothing encapsulates that more than the local news. Because if you turn it on, there's murder, or this politician said something and this politician responded and was even worse back, or
Yep.
this kid is missing. And it's all sad stuff, sad, depressing stuff. And he said when people flip on the local news and see sports, they just want to laugh. They just want to smile because it's sports. And that has completely flipped my perspective as to where Yeah, there's serious stuff that happens in sports from time to like there's times where sports becomes news. But at the end of the day, people are still watching sports like I did as a kid, and they just want to smile and laugh. And I think that has completely changed my perspective to make sports just as fun as it can be. And it's serious sometimes too, but people want to enjoy it, and that's really important advice.
So we went through kind of, like those first jobs you had. What do you think, looking back, was kind of the first moment where you felt you had a handle, you were starting to grow into your own as a reporter, just kind of your first big break?
I'd say going back for a second internship where my first internship, that was really my entire, like, that was all the experience I had in any sort of TV, any sort of video.
Hmm.
But then after that, I was able to take over as the news director, the producer, the lead anchor, the sports director, the lead reporter of SCTV, Simpson College's student newscast. So I was able, like, I swear I was working 40-hour weeks my junior year of like I was putting together pretty much everything in the newscast. We would have some people help out, but it was mainly on me. But I was able to get so much experience in that year alone. And then when I was able to come back the next summer for an internship, I felt ready to actually do this work and to tell stories and to maybe be able to fill in for stuff. And I was able to do that. And luckily, Keith Murphy got super sick one day, and he texted me. I still to this day I still think he's joking. I thought he was joking. He texted me. I remember I like had just left church on a Sunday. I was ready to come in to do my normal Sunday routine at Sound Off and just kind of hang out and help with what's needed. And Keith texted me like, I've been battling the flu for a few days. I thought I was going to be good to go today, but I'm not. Mark's out of town. Andy's out of town. Surency's out of town. Could you possibly fill in for Sound Off? Uh, and my heart sank. And I'm like, of course I could fill in for Sound Off. And I was able to fill in for Sound Off, and that was still the moment that I'm like, wow, I've made it here. And that was before I knew that I was going to be able to land a job at Local 5, and that I think that's a big reason, not just to get exposure or get like high quality looking stuff on my reel, but to get the confidence that like, oh man, I just did this 30-minute show. And there's still parts if I go back and look that I could easily critique myself, but to see the progress from year one to that moment, it was immense. And that was able to just kind of let me know and in my heart of hearts that you've done the work, you're here, and you might actually be able to do this for a living one day.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt when you have a guy like Keith Murphy trusting you with, because that's like his baby is Sound Off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's pretty incredible as
And
well.
and John Sears was able to John it was like I'm trying to think what a good comparison in sports would be. It'd be like the third string running back gets hurt and they bring in the fourth string running back, and you've just got a veteran quarterback who's like, "Hey, you go over there. We're running this," like telling me exactly what I need to do and putting me in positions to succeed the entire time. That's what John was like that night because I mean, I blacked out. It was a
I was just about to ask, do you even
because
remember or is it
because there's
just
like
gone?
there's four, not even there's maybe 2 minutes in between the 10 o'clock news and Sound Off going on air. So I'm kind of just in my suit, standing there waiting for Sound Off to go on. And then once they do it, they just throw your mic on. They throw your earpiece in. And it's like, all right, five, four, three, two, one. And here we go. And luckily now kind of that thrill and shock of being on TV is gone because it just makes it a lot easier to do your job and a lot easier to successfully convey emotion and tell stories. But it is pretty hard to replicate that first time of, all right, this is live TV. Let's do it. This is awesome.
This is a super, super cliche question, but I'm really interested in hearing what your answer will be. But so far in your career, what's your favorite moment you've been able to go cover?
It's hard to go against getting to cover a Final Four with
Yeah,
Caitlin Clark. The problem was I got food poisoning on that trip, so I missed the national championship.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I covered this was year two, the Caitlin's senior year. I made the drive from Des Moines to Cleveland, got there, had a good first day, covered the game against UConn in the tunnel. Um, Everything was just fine. And then I woke up the next morning with food poisoning. And
oh.
I remember calling my boss, Raina Garcia, and I'm like, this is bad. I feel terrible. And she's just like, all right, take the day off. I can handle the just the off day media session, which was going to be less work, obviously, than a
Mhm.
game day. I went and I got an IV. I
Holy
I
cow.
laid in I laid in bed the entire day just with hopes of feeling better for the national championship. And I woke up on Sunday. I'm like, I can't do it. I feel so terrible. So I was in Cleveland a block away from the national championship game, laying in bed watching on TV. So maybe that's not my best experience. But being in the building for the Final Four, so best experience, I'll say the Iowa State Kansas State football game this last year.
Okay.
Finally experiencing a 10-win season. It was so freaking cold. It was like 7 degrees. But being a lifelong Iowa State fan, I think if you come to Iowa and you didn't grow up in this state or didn't grow up with the Cyclones, you might not be able to understand why a 10-win season's a big deal. But to be able to be a part of that and watch a crazy game in the cold and to be able to anticipate like the entire fourth quarter, I think they're going to do this and to do it against a rival and to be on the sideline shooting it, that just a such a cool moment.
I'm actually surprised because it's one of my favorite things I've been able to cover was the Sweet 16 um a few years ago with Iowa State.
Oh, losing to Illinois.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were that was gonna be one you were gonna put up there or not, but
That was such a cool experience. TD Garden was so awesome.
yeah,
If they would
because
have
Boston's beautiful.
if they would have won that game, no matter what would have happened against UConn, that would have been up there just because we would have all had that extra day
Yep,
in between to go. So I feel like I was shortchanged because the game didn't go right and
that's fair.
the trip was shorter. I will say the Washington State game before that,
Hmm.
getting to witness an Iowa State NCAA tournament win in person was really cool. And to have 7,000 Iowa State fans in the building for that. It was a really cool atmosphere that felt kind of like the Big 12 tournament. And to see my mom in the stands and wave at her after the game, that was also a cool moment. You'll find a lot of my moments are like, okay, what involves Iowa State, or what was cool with Iowa State?
Oh, I don't think anyone blames you. All my favorites are involving Drake somehow, which it still would have been so perfect to have Drake Iowa State in
Yeah,
March
oh,
Madness.
we were
Should
so
have been that
close.
way.
But yeah, I've loved. We've talked about this before. I'm 8-0 at Arch Madness or something like that, or five.
Yeah.
I've been to Arch Madness 3 times and I've witnessed 3 Drake championships. So those have all been. I don't even know how I would rank those three because they've all been so memorable in their own right. But whenever I get to go down for that, that's also such a cool moment.
It's such a fun tournament too. But yeah, no matter what happens, in 10 years, if you decide to move on from TV or something, I'm still gonna force you to go to St. Louis just
I
because of that record.
I would love to. I would love to go one year as a fan. The
Yeah.
timing of it is it's just so hard
Yeah.
with everything else. But I would love to go. One of my best friends, Isaac Dikey, And his twin brother, Matt Dykey, actually went to Drake. So Isaac's a UNI guy, Matt's a Drake guy. They'll go down for the entire tournament and go to every game and go drink beer and sit and watch the maybe the best conference tournament in all college basketball. So I need to join them one year and do that.
Before I let you go, I want to talk real quick about you're adding more stuff to your hat with now you're doing the Big 12 podcast on Iowa Everywhere. You've helped them out. Just what has it been like to really look back on what has been a great start to what will be a great long career and having Iowa Everywhere in your back pocket too, and those guys helping out?
Yeah, it's just cool to look back because 3 years ago at this time, I was pretty much just starting that second internship, and I had no idea what was in store for my future. I knew that that summer would determine my reel on where am I going to get a job when I graduate? Am I going to get a job when I graduate? Am I going to move across the country? Am I going to go to market 240? I didn't know, and there was a lot of anxiety with that, and I was able to get so lucky that I guess I should probably share this story. So I was at a Waukee Northwest softball game, and Colin Cahill, who was the old weekend sports anchor at Local 5, he was there, and we were just chatting along the first baseline, and I asked, "Hey, Colin, how long do you plan on staying in Des Moines?" That's a pretty common question if someone's not
Yeah.
from there. And he's like, "Well, I'm actually leaving tomorrow." And I was like, oh. So his wife got a really good job back home. So he
Hmm.
was kind of ending the TV career and was going to go back home. But it planted a seed. And I guess maybe I could try and apply for that role, thinking, well, I still have a year of college left. It's probably not going to happen, but I might as well. And I applied, didn't hear back for a month. I'm like, all right, they just don't want a college kid. And so my boss, who was still the sports director at the time, Morena Garcia, she was at state softball as a one-man band. She was the only person in the sports department, and she got COVID.
Oh.
And I remember she posted that on Twitter, and Keith sent me the tweet, and he said, "Well, if Local 5 hasn't called you yet, if they don't call you today, you're not getting the job." Sure enough, like 10 minutes later, I got a call from the news director, and he's like, "Hey, I'd love for you to come in for an interview." I did an interview and I got offered the job and still had a full year of college still to do at the same time. But looking back at all the opportunities that I was able to get just from that and from all of the chips kind of falling in the right place and everything working out great has set me up for amazing opportunities with Iowa Everywhere. Like to be able to, I mean, I have to podcast with Derek Duke. It's difficult. The guy is just no, I love Derek, but to be able to be on the same network as Chris Hassel and Chris Williams and Keith Murphy and Andy
Yeah.
Fales and everybody, it's so cool to be a small part of that and to kind of be a part of where media is going. And you're in the same spot, you're doing the same type of thing, and to be able to be in the right spot and to be kind of on the forefront of new media in Iowa. And it's going to be very cool to see in 10 or 15 or 20 years where everything goes and to say, oh, yeah, I was there at pretty much the start of that. And to be able to help build that up is pretty dang cool.
Huge thank you to Jake Brend again for coming on the show. We'll have him on more often again to he's kind of the Cyclone guy too. I know he covers a lot of teams and NBA. We spoke a lot NBA with him today, but probably we'll have him on throughout the fall too to talk Cyclones as well. But before we finish up today's show, give a shout out to Stevens Automotive and Sales, our big three keys for Stevens Automotive and Sales over at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive. Number one, loyalty, of course, because they've been there for 35 years, family owned and operated here in the state of Iowa. Those are the kind of people you'll be working with over at Stevens. Number two is communication. They are the best at it. They are people that will continue to keep you updated on the status of your car. They will keep you updated on what to look for in the future and what needs to be fixed, whether it is crucial or is something just to keep an eye on. They're perfect at communication. And finally, you're working with cars. You can always get nervous of people trying to upsell you, BS you. Not at Stevens. No BS could be the biggest key of why Stevens Automotive and Sales is so great. So go check them out at 5320 Northwest Beaver Drive in Johnston, Iowa. 35 years of family owned and operated. When you go, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. We will see you Friday for another edition of the Media Row podcast with me, Justin Miller.